Welcome to this course. In this lesson, I'm going to go through the most typical technical difficulties of this sonata. And in the next lessons, we'll be speaking about interpretation and other movements. So if you want to make a substantial progress in this piece, follow the link in the description and you can get an access to a full course on this piece. That's why in this lesson, we are going to skip the introduction section because it poses more interpretational difficulties than purely technical ones. And we'll be speaking about it in the next lesson. And now let's start right from the bar 11 from Allegro di molto e con brio. And of course, the first most basic complaint from students is connected with broken octaves, with these left hand broken octaves that should sound very light, but nevertheless precisely controlled and so on. I have a special video on my channel about how to master this type of technique, so please start from there. If you are watching this on YouTube, you can find it following the card, and if you're watching this on Teachable, you can find the link to this video in the description. And here I would just sum up quickly that this kind of this type of technique depends very much on three things. First one, of course, is hand positioning. So we should have a stable fifth finger and stable thumb as well. So the thumb is supported in the bed of the key. The thumb, I would remind briefly that the thumb is never really straight or bent out. It's always supported in the wrist here, and this muscle works properly. If you feel tension here, like inside your hand palm, it means that you're using the wrong set of muscles. Yeah, so the thumb should be gently curved like this. So we would have support in these muscles and in the wrist. And the fifth finger also should be quite stable here. Yeah, so for example, this hand positioning, when we have a fallen knuckle of the fifth finger, won't provide us with a necessary stability. And it would feel quite weird. It would feel very weak. So in order to improve this situation, we have to tilt our hand just a tiny bit like that, like clockwise, activating the knuckle of the fifth finger and teaching our fifth finger to stand properly on the key, having support in this particular knuckle, yeah, not in the wrist, but in the knuckle. And for that, tilting the hand, as I said, and of course also we can move our thumbs kind of out, like twisting the wrist just a tiny bit out in order to create a certain angle between the fifth finger and the key. Because if we have a fifth finger that is aligned, like parallel to the key, more or less, then also that's a weak situation. Yeah, we have a weak fifth finger that has a tendency to fall, to lay on the key. But if we would open the hand palm like that and increase the angle between the finger and the key, so now you see the fifth finger is angled toward the key, like that. This creates a great stability here. This brings a huge amount of stability here. So our fifth fingers might be really strong. And this is a great way to play octaves, wide chords and stuff. So these things we might keep in mind. And then, of course, another thing that is very important, the second thing is very important, is weight transfer. So we transfer the weight properly from 1 to 5 and back. So at first you learn to walk properly, to make sure that you transfer the weight from left to the right part of your hand palm and back. It means that the thumb should be as supported as your fifth finger, because one of the common problems here is when people hold all the weight and all the tension at the fifth finger, and the thumb is kind of like very light and blocked. So we have to transfer the weight properly. And of course, for that, we have to release the whole arm. So we let our elbows to follow a little bit. So at first, I would suggest you to work on it in a medium tempo and on mezzo forte, working with the weight transfer. And the third, the ultimate thing that is important here is, of course, finger release. So whenever you proceed to the thumb, you release the fifth finger immediately. And this finger should be dead by now. And then you go back to the fifth finger, releasing the thumb. So you have just one finger that works at a time. And that workflow allows you to get rid of tension and feel yourself comfortable. For further tips, please check out the dedicated video where I explain in more detail how to master this particular technique type. Another thing that we might keep in mind that usually these spots with broken octaves, they're not so long. They're just a few, like 16-20 bars long, which is like a few seconds basically of playing time. So that's why if you play them through, you won't get tired even if you have some tension. What makes people really exhausted is when they learn the spot many times in a row, repeating it many times in a row, and this is exactly what causes rising amount of tension and fatigue. So another thing that we have to keep in mind that when we work on other aspects, like for example mastering the right hand, we don't even have to always repeat those broken octaves. We don't have to exhaust ourselves. Always you can just simplify it and play just octaves. When you work on memorization or resolving efficiency difficulties in the right hand. So you don't have to always keep running, just give your left hand a rest sometimes. Let's have a look at the right hand, because it also poses a certain challenge for many players. So in order to master right hand, we have to synchronize motions in a particular way as well. And that's why we are going to break all this passage. We are going to break it into elements. At first, pairs of chords. This is our first pair. This is our second pair. And then we have a group of 3 notes. This is our third element. And then again, 2 pairs. 1 pair, second pair, and the last pair. Yeah? So we break it into elements. 2, 2, 3 notes, 2, 2, 2. And now we coordinate motions, making proper gaps and releasing the hand between those elements. And the first interval, we are playing on a pull-in motion, like out of the keyboard, like that. Release the fingers immediately. And the second one, we play out of the keyboard, like kind of jumping off, releasing the fingers. So we don't pull up the fingers, because that means that fingers are tense. If you do that, what we have to do is to raise the forearm, absolutely releasing the fingers, like that. And you move with your wrist, down, up, down, up, 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 down. Here we jump 2 times, light cushioning motion, you see. You raise the forearm, activating fingertips for a fraction of the second and release them. So you get this kind of elastic and precise touch, and lean on the longer note. Release, and then again, out, in, release, out the keyboard, in the keyboard, release. Here we go up for this one in order to land on the chord from above, like that. Okay, so let's repeat that quickly. Down, up, release, down, up, release, up, up, down, release, out, in, or down, up. You can think of it the way you like. And the last one is different. Out of the keyboard, in the keyboard. And we approach such chords like imagine an airplane landing, like that. So going in the keyboard, like that, boom, from above. And you spread the fingers, activate them at the moment of the impact, and just stick your hand in the keyboard. Of course, you can cushion it if you feel that it's too strong. You can always cushion it with the wrist a little bit, and just change the speed with which you go in the keyboard. Yeah, making it slower, thus more delicately, or faster, thus stronger. And all such elements, you break them into groups, into pairs, and always work on that smooth transition from pair to pair, at first practicing with gaps. Release, release. And you need that time in order to teach your hand to release and to transfer to the next position with lazy fingers. And only then you work on that transition in order to make it seamless. And of course, you minimize the motions, but nevertheless, down, up, down, up, down, up. So that efficiency of motions is very important. You have to start slowly and give yourself enough time to coordinate motions and to get rid of tension between hand positions. Then, proceeding further to bars 28 and so on. Here, this arpeggio, of course, at first, making sure that each finger is stable enough. So you transfer the weight from finger to finger, immediately releasing previous fingers. Then, of course, in such quick arpeggios, we don't have to struggle with a physical legato. So as soon as you hit the thumb, you flip over other fingers like that, boom, releasing the thumb immediately, not connecting it physically. And this is one motion. This is a very important skill in piano playing. When you play arpeggios, approaching the thumb, you flip over other fingers while hitting the thumb, not afterwards, because that is inefficient if you move after the hit. Yeah, so with the hit, so you are immediately approaching the next position, and you can practice like, for example, like that, covering the whole next position. And then as it is written. And of course, articulating properly the last bits of this passage. You can make some impressive wave at the end of that passage. Also, when we have black notes, we coordinate motions. When I have black keys, yeah, we go a little bit in, out, in. So generally the thumb goes usually out of the keyboard, and when we have a black key we go a little bit in the keyboard, activating the knuckles. But attention, don't lift your wrist too much. So out, in, out, in. Also we can experiment with different types of motions for such curved motifs, but usually we do help with the arm a little bit in order to make it really comfortable. Then when we have some leaps, like for example in bar 35, a very important skill to master is to play the last note on a movement up, like that. So while you hit that note with a finger, your forearm already starts moving further, like that, you see? Because if you move after, then you get clumsy. So you jump off immediately, yeah? So the finger goes down, the forearm already moves up, and you release the finger immediately in order to release the hand and to regroup for the next position. Also, at first you practice giving yourself enough time to grasp the sensation, and don't continue until you can really feel that you have released the finger, and until you have felt that you move absolutely relaxed and immediately with the hit. And then pom pom. Focus fingers only when you're already near the next position, when you approach. Then when you have all kinds of sforzando, we play them using gravity. So just focusing fingers and using gravity. And of course, in such chords, it's also good to voice these sforzandi. So we mark E flat more than other two notes, which creates a rather symphonic impression, yeah, not just a straightforwardly pianistic